Hello, welcome back to the Harmony Inspired Health podcast. Today's episode explores a topic that might challenge old paradigms, but also offers a profound invitation to open up new ways of healing the nervous system and reclaiming your inner rhythm. I am joined by Kayse Gehret, founder of Microdosing for Healing and a pioneer in the global microdosing movement. With nearly 30 years in the healing arts and having supported over 1,400 individuals globally, Kayse's work bridges science, spirituality, and somatic wisdom. Today, we'll be diving into how microdosing can become a sacred and structured tool for trauma recovery, emotional regulation, nervous system healing, and how it can beautifully complement holistic modalities like Ayurveda, meditation, and nutrition. So, whether you're curious about plant medicine or looking for a new layer to your healing journey, this conversation will stretch, soothe, and awaken. So, welcome to the podcast, Kayse.
Thank you so much for having me.
We have not had anyone talk about microdosing, plant medicine. So I'm really looking forward to this and learning a lot from you in the process of interviewing you. So I feel really honored and excited to be able to have you on.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
So I want to jump straight in, and I guess before we get deep into it, for those who are new to it and are hearing microdosing for the first time, what exactly is microdosing and how does it differ from recreational or ceremonial use of plant medicine? And maybe we should talk a little bit about what plant medicine is as well.
Perfect. This is a great starting point because, some people and a lot of people now are pure beginners and just are a clean slate as to all of it. So when we talk about microdosing, we're typically talking about psychedelics used at a very teeny tiny dose. So you are not altered, you are not trippy, you're working kind of at a sub-threshold dose. Most commonly, we're referring to psilocybin mushrooms or LSD, although you can microdose other plant and earth medicines as well. But it's typically around 1/10-ish of what a ceremonial dose might be, with the intention of being just going about your day-to-day life and incorporating the benefits of psychedelics into your day-to-day life while you're in your day-to-day life.
Yeah, thank you. I think that explained it really well. Perfect. You've got that one down pat. Can you tell us about your personal healing journey and how it led you to the world of microdosing?
Yes, happy to. So I tend to work with a lot of people who are very hesitant, who are very careful, have a little bit of fear around psychedelics. And that's perfect because that was my experience as well, completely. So I had a grand mal seizure disorder growing up. So while I was a curious kid and very into health and wellness and healing, I always was resistant to doing drugs, let alone psychedelics, that to do anything that would destabilize my mind more than it already was doing all by itself. And later, when I encountered someone who introduced me to the idea of microdosing, that I was like, okay, I'm not going to be altered. I'm not going to destabilize my mind in a trip. And so that I was open to trying. And I didn't really know what to expect. I thought it would be a spiritual supplement or maybe boost my creativity a little bit. I had no idea it would heal my seizures completely from the start. So I have never had a seizure since, along with a whole host of other benefits, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, have come through thanks to mushrooms, so much so that I decided to make it what I do.
Yeah, beautiful. And so, is there any scientific evidence that it can heal certain? Um,
Yes, there's a whole raft of research just came in around nervous system healing. So most of the research internationally focuses on high dose psilocybin experiences, but we can extrapolate from that. A small dose will likely have the same benefits, and we have certainly seen that played out in the real world. So one very exciting recent one was around Parkinson's, which everybody was really looking forward to. We've seen such tremendous nervous system healing across the board, from TBI, concussions, migraine headaches, cluster headaches, any kind of accidents, head injury accidents, auto accidents. And we'd seen great results. And it was just a research study just came in showing great benefit and promise for Parkinson's, also too for dementia, Alzheimer's, nervous system conditions, depression, and addictions too.
Yeah, right. And so in your practice, what are you using the microdosing for mostly to help support your clients?
It's so broad right now. I think when we first began back in 2020, it was a lot of mental health. It was the height of the pandemic, so we had a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression cases, a lot of addiction too. People were like, "I'm just leaning on the wine little too hard," right? And I'd like support and drinking a little bit less. Now, though, it's so diverse, which is so exciting. We still see a lot of physical and mental health presentations and intentions, but we also see a lot of people who want to work on different aspects of self, personal growth, spiritual connection, connection to nature and the earth, building resilience in this modern time, this year particularly. So it's really, really diverse and it really speaks to the capacity and gifts of the medicine fully, which is really exciting.
Beautiful. And so do we know how these medicines actually work in the body, in the mind?
Little bit of his honest answer. So, biologically, they work on our serotonin receptors. And so, one of the great misconceptions in space is people think if they're working with antidepressants, which also work on the serotonin receptors, they can't microdose simultaneously. That is actually not the case, particularly if you're working with mushrooms. In fact, working with mushrooms can actually help you to taper off your antidepressants if you're not really pleased with the effect that they are having on your health. So it plays on this receptor, which impacts the serotonin receptors in the brain as well as throughout the gut, which I'm sure a lot of your listeners already know this. We actually have more serotonin in the gut than we actually do in our brain. Modern science tends to focus on the brain conditions, but really, I have seen the way medicine works. It affects us on such a systemic level similar to the gut. Like when you treat your gut, you affect every other system in the body. And so I think science, while we know which receptors it plays on, I think we're only scratching the surface of what we're going to discover in the coming months and years.
Yeah. And so can you take these mushrooms long term that you speak of?
Yes, that's also a great question. So it's a little mind bendy when people are first starting because we're so conditioned in the pharmaceutical mindset that we take something and we have to keep taking it to keep the effect going. So a lot of times that's a big worry. People start in 6 weeks, 3 months, they have great healing, they have great shifts in their life, and then they're afraid to take a break because they're like, am I going to lose it? Am I going to backslide? Am I going to go back to feeling the way that I did before? And you don't. And so it's a little bit mind bending in that you have to remind yourself that mushrooms are just kind of opening, turning the key to your own healing. And it's your innate healing. Your nervous system is resetting at a fundamental level that you don't need the mushrooms to keep practicing. So the way we've seen it typically play out in our community is people will practice for 6 weeks or 3 months. They'll take a break, they'll reset, and then they'll either come back to practice for another cycle after a month or two, or sometimes people are content to integrate what they've received, take 6 months, take a year, and then come back. But when they come back, they're doing it with a completely different intention than they were when they first started.
Yeah, beautiful. I think it's so fascinating how powerful herbal medicine can be. I mean, we teach herbal medicine obviously as one of our modules in our Ayurveda Alchemist Academy programs. And I always tell my students, like, don't take herbal medicine lightly. It is a powerful, powerful medicine. It's our original form of medicine. And even the pharmaceuticals we have today are derived from the qualities and the actions of plant medicine. So it is, yeah, so amazing what it can actually do. But with everything, whether it be pharmaceuticals or plant medicine, there can be different side effects. So have you noticed anything with the microdosing of the mushrooms or psychedelics that you speak of?
In terms of side effects, honestly, it sounds funny, but the biggest side effect that is challenging for folks is emotionality. So, mushrooms really remediate us the same way they remediate nature. So, they bring stuff up, they work and remediate old, dense energy, heavy frequency, things that are ready to be released, old trauma in the body. And so they lighten us. But in the lightening of us, that energy needs to move up and out. So lots of times people can have tears are very, very common. It's a catharsis, it's a purge. It's very similar to doing a detox or a cleanse. So you go through a healing crisis where you're destabilized to come back together stronger than you were to start. And so if people aren't anticipating that or they're not educated around that, it can take them a bit by surprise at how tender they can feel, emotional, be cranky for a while. And as a guide, we're helping people recognize that oftentimes what's coming up is the emotion and feeling that they most suppressed, right? And it's just nature's way of bringing us into balance. It's not going to last forever. It's just kind of shaking us up, shaking us out. And then when you come back together, you'll feel lighter and more balanced.
Yeah, okay. And earlier you mentioned that people or your clients, they come in for treatment. So does this mean that you don't give them a prescription and they take it at home? Are they coming into clinic to be treated? How is it working?
They're doing it at home on
Okay.
their own. So when we started, everybody was home in the pandemic. Everybody was locked down when we first started. And so people taught people how to grow their own mushrooms. They would get a cultivation kit and grow their medicines at home. And so it was a beautiful relationship where you're growing your own, just like you're growing your own herbs at home and building your own personal relationship with the medicines that you will then use for healing. Now, thankfully, there's a lot of medicine makers who are public facing and have websites in various countries, and so people can go directly to them. They tend to operate under religious protections here in the United States. So there's different laws in different states that are set up so that people can access safe medicines that are in a finished form, which is nice when you're first starting out. So you're not guessing and nibbling and chopping and weighing, right? When you're trying to get a handle on what your specific sweet spot is and what your dose is going to be, sometimes it's nice to work with a pre formatted
Yeah,
formula.
absolutely. And were there any limitations that you experienced with conventional treatments? And yeah, like what did plant medicine offer that shifted this pathway, like when you were sort of bringing this out to the community, I guess?
Great question. So, of course, there's stigma, especially around like the Gen Xers and the baby boomers, those of us who kind of move through those years where there was a lot of stigma. And so, a lot of people come in and they worry that they're going to be out of it. They're like, I have a family, I have young children, I have a big job. I can't be weird. I can't be weird and saying weird things and doing weird things. So that is remedied very quickly after starting because you quickly, within days, realize you don't feel out of it. You're actually more on your game than you've ever been. You're more articulate, you're more clear, your reflexes are better, you're more dialed in and comfortable in your own skin when you practice. So that usually solves itself pretty readily. And the first couple years, to be honest, a lot of the stigma was from clinicians. There's a lot of doubt. There was a lot of, this is placebo or it's fringy. It's weird to be doing. But there was a huge shift that took place 2 or 3 years ago. I remember suddenly a lot of clinicians started to come to practice and enrolling in our programs. And it was like, wow, we have a lot of doctors and surgeons and psychotherapists and nurses here. And when I asked them what shifted for them, they said two things. One was they really needed the personal support for themselves. A lot of them had been really burnt out and depleted from the pandemic era and wanted the support personally. But also, they said their clients and patients kept asking for it. They said they kept coming and asking. And I feel like I have to educate myself around it and experience it so at least I can determine not that I'm going to offer it in my practice, but I need to know when it's going to be appropriate for people to do so.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, it's such a beautiful thing that the gap is starting to become more bridge between the Eastern or natural, however you want to sort of word it, with the Western, more allopathic medicine. I think I've definitely noticed a shift over my many years in both modalities of that bridge or that gap being bridged, which is so amazing. And I really love that that's happening. That said, is this accessible only in the States, or is this sort of a worldwide thing?
It's a worldwide thing now. The biggest sticking point was sourcing. Sourcing is really important. I'm sure it's very, very similar to herbal medicine. Is When you grow it yourself, that's ideal, but also knowing your farmer is the next best thing and having a personal relationship with them. And so it took some time to grow and develop our community because those sourcing relationships were very, very important to me. So now we have sourcing partners and collaborators in, I think, over 30 countries now at this point, so that people can access safe, high integrity, high vibration sourcing for people that are really doing this for the right reasons and really, really passionate about it.
Yeah, okay. So I'm guessing the next question on everyone's mind is, when they first hear psychedelics and we think of like picking magic mushrooms and all this type of thing, like, is this legal? Sounds great, but is this actually a legal practice?
It is one of those fields that it is the public and it is the people, the underground that is so far ahead of where the science is. And the science is way ahead of where the governments are. And we kind of see this around the world is the government, as it's just the whole concept of it is in a state right now. And so it's really been this people powered grassroots movement and mycelium around the world that has taken hold. So it's largely being driven by people sharing just like this, like people talking together, people sharing information, people sharing their experience. Lots of times when people come to microdosing, it's their last resort. They've tried everything else. They've tried pharma, they've tried every program and every modality, and they're like, I can't believe I'm doing magic mushrooms. Like, I'm not the person who does magic mushrooms. I'm 62. What am I doing? We get that a lot. But when they do have this healing is they share it with their friends and their family. And so that's really, really how it's growing. Right now, it's so unpredictable the way the decriminalization and legalization movement is growing. So it's country to country, it's state to state here in the US, it's city by city sometimes. So cities have taken it upon themselves to decriminalize within city zoning. So it's changing every day. And so we always have people check in your jurisdiction. So if you know you're in a decriminalized state or county, you can be rather free about it. If you are in a state where it's still illegal, which most people are here in the US, you have to assess your own level of risk, right? Microdosing, I think, is far safer and less risk to most things. And also, if you're not selling and distributing mushrooms to, you're at less risk. But that said, it's good to do your homework, know where you are, know what the status is, and be pretty low key about it, depending on where you live.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm super curious about how it supports nervous system regulation because I think that is such a huge area of need these days and times. So I'd love to sort of just dive a little bit deeper on that. I know we did touch on that before, but what's actually happening on a somatic or energetic level?
Think several things. I mean, biologically, it is opening up new pathways, new neural pathways. So they have shown in science we actually grow new dendrites and lengthen our capacity for new ideas, new thinking, new connections. The brain literally changes over time. And so people come with these chronic conditions that they're told by their doctors they can manage, but they can't improve upon. But then we see them improve pretty remarkably sometimes. So that is biologically, but I also too think from watching the way mushrooms work over and over, it really changes people at an energetic level. So as you shed heavier, denser energy, you become lighter. And with that is we hold a lot of anxiety in our nervous systems. It manifests in all different ways. It might just happen to be grand mal seizures, but somebody else, it might be a migraine. Some other people, it would be disorder sleeping. So when you reset your nervous system, heal your nervous system, and shed some of these traumas in the nervous system, just by doing that, we solve and resolve a whole lot of the symptoms that are resultant from that. So it's pretty multi-layered and pretty remarkable.
Yeah. And I always talk to my students or even my clients about herbal medicine, supplementation. Like, it's just one piece of the puzzle. It's something that we always integrate into lifestyle changes. In Ayurveda, we talk about dinacharya, which is daily routine and seasonal routine and nutrition and all of the things that helps you really cultivate this deeper sense of awareness and step into your higher self. So, how in your practice, do you integrate other modalities with microdosing or other practices maybe or tools?
I love this question because this is what microdosing really, really excels at. It is meant to be paired with other modalities. And that's a big part of guiding people. And we have guides now, we're training guides to do microdosing support, and they all come with their unique backgrounds. Ayurveda is a beautiful pairing, breath work is a beautiful pairing, movement practice and body workers is a beautiful pairing. And so microdosing really opens up the possibility, opens up the pathways. But then when you're doing these other lifestyle things in sync with them, that's when all of that really gets amplified. So it's beautiful to see because when people start microdosing, sometimes they're led to practices that they never would have thought of or done. Ayurveda, for one, like when people work with Ayurveda, it also helps them learn about themselves and view their body and system in a very, very different way than Western medicine does, which is really, really valuable. And they can start to think about themselves and the energy and the seasons and in the greater context of the earth. So it's really, really ideal. Yes, you can microdose just by itself. You'll probably have good results, but you'll have really phenomenal results if you pair it with some other modalities.
Yeah, beautiful. And with within your business structure, how it sort of work like well, yeah, let's go with that. How does how does it work? How does your business structure work with this microdosing? And I guess how do you ensure safety and structure when guiding people through their microdosing journeys, especially when they've just started and they know nothing about it or they've never done anything like this?
That's such a thoughtful question. I really appreciate that. I have found that in any new practice, the more structure people have up front, it allows them to their nervous system relaxes. If you know what to expect, if you know when you're going to be, you know what you're going to do. So I really stack a lot of structure and consistency up front in the first 6 weeks, the first 3 months. So I've done over 30 group programs now that are 6-week containers where people come together every week. They have connection to me throughout the week, throughout the time if things come in. And it's one of those practices where a lot can happen in a short amount of time. So having a lot of touch points and consistency in the first bit is wonderful. And then people kind of get the hang of it. Their intuition dials in, their instinct kicks in, they're connected to the medicine. Then their practice becomes really intuitive over time. So up front, we might start with a protocol, which is typically with mushrooms, we work 4-3 is common. So 4 days on, 3 days off, 5 days on, 2 days off. Sometimes people will do every other day. But we tend to work with a protocol for the first 6 weeks, 3 months, just to get people connected. And then after that, it'll shift into a more natural rhythm.
Yeah, sure. And does the dosage change person to person, or is it sort of like a similar dosage for everyone?
It does, it does. So a microdose is typically when speaking to mushrooms, it's about 50 milligrams up to 250 milligrams is still a microdose. Our community tends to be pretty sensitive lot. We work with a lot of creatives, a lot of healers, a lot of pretty open people. So they tend to start at 50 milligrams, 100 milligrams. People who are currently taking or have recently taken antidepressants and some sleeping medications tend to need to be at the higher end of the spectrum because of the blunting of their receptors that has taken place. But most people find benefit kind of in that 100, 125-ish range.
Yeah, okay. Amazing. Wow, this has just been so interesting. I'm learning so much from you. Thank you. I know I've asked you so many questions, but before we dive more into what you do offer, I'd love to do a quick rapid fire of three more questions, if that's okay.
Fire away, please.
What is one plant medicine misconception that you'd love to clear up?
That it makes you feel outside of yourself. That's I probably hear that one more than any other. But it's based on worry and fear. And if anything, it brings you deeply home to yourself. It's quite the opposite.
And what's a one ritual that you never skip?
I have a lot of rituals. um, I'd say it's very rare that I miss yoga
Okay.
every day.
Yeah. What kind of yoga do you practice?
Just my own free form. It's funny. I used to have yoga studios. I own yoga studios and I was a devotee of studios. And then during the pandemic, we were home. I was living in California at the time. We were locked down for a very, very long time. I developed a home practice with my dog beside me during those years. And I've just had a home practice ever since that I love.
Yeah, I definitely do more home practice these days as well. Just makes sense.
It sounds like you have a reason to. Do you have a little one?
Yeah. I've got twin boys. Have you been hearing them in the background?
Yep.
The holidays, they're actually 13, but that was why I was like pausing my mic. Be quiet, boys. It's like, no matter how many times I've warned them, I'm recording a podcast. It's still clanging down there, making pancakes apparently.
They love it when we do our yoga at home. I get it.
Yeah. And last question is, if you could give your younger self one healing insight, what would it be?
Oh my goodness. Let me think about that one.
It's kind of deep to be put on the spot with that one.
No, it's a great question. I think what I have come to learn, it only took 29 and a half years of healing work to realize so much of healing is releasing fear from the body, releasing the density of fear. And when you do that, everything shifts and your body moves into a new energy and a new resonance. And that's what can heal anything.
Yeah. Okay. And I guess on that, just regarding the fear, I kind of do have one more question. And
Sure.
so that would be, if we have some listeners out there that are, this is sparking their interest, but they do have that fear factor of what microdosing
Mhm.
is. What would you say to those people? Like how would they start this journey?
That was me. I understand. I resonate. So, two things. I'm one of those people who reads all the things. So,
Mhm.
you listening might be that way. Like to feel comfortable and confident in anything, you'd like to read all of the things and you read the labels and all the things. So, there's a lot more information out there now, but vet your information. So, there's a lot of misinformation. Like 5 years ago, the problem was there wasn't enough good information or information at all. Now there's a lot of information. And if you go down the rabbit hole, sometimes there's a lot of misinformation too. So I'd say do your homework and get vetted resource information. And also, our community was largely created for those people. So, for people who are just curious, the best way to learn how to microdose and to get your confidence is to be around other people and just listen. So, I always invite people in. We have a community, it's very accessible, it's just month to month, and you can pop in and hop in and just gather with people who are doing this practice from all around the world and listen to their stories. Ask questions, get your confident. And that usually really, really is helpful because you can hear people who are just like you, who also were mushroom people before, and you'll really gain your confidence quite quickly.
Beautiful. And where can people learn more about your work, your programs, or the facilitator training? Tell us what you actually offer.
Yeah. So everything, all of the above are at microdosingforhealing.com. We have a podcast there devoted to earth medicine. So there's a lot of podcasts you can listen to learn about different approaches, guides, the science, anything you might wonder about microdosing. We probably have an episode on it. And there you can find information about the community, the group programs, as well as a facilitator training.
Yeah, amazing. And so on your website, they can access, if they are wanting to start their journey with microdosing, finding someone in their location.
Yes. So we have folks in Australia, New Zealand. I'm guessing a lot of your listeners are in Australia, New Zealand. Yes. And so in our global community, we have staggered the times intentionally because we have folks in Europe and the UK on that side of the world, as well as Aussies and New Zealanders. So we stagger the group call times so that we can accommodate everybody at least a few times a month.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you so much for opening this sacred space with us today and being just so open and sharing your wisdom and teaching us everything that you you have around microdosing. It has been really interesting, and I think you've got a beautiful grounded integrated approach to microdosing and the nervous system regulation, which is beautiful to see other healers doing their work. And to all of our beautiful listeners, if today's episode sparked curiosity or resonance, I encourage you to go and follow Kayse's work. And that's where you can find out more about her programs and all of our resources as well. So thank you, everybody, for being here, for tuning in. We appreciate all of you. Thank you.